Hey everybody, this is Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine. It's about 11 p.m. here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it's November 18th, 2020. I hope everybody's hanging in there. I wanted to come on. I kind of wanted to come on to give an update. I haven't been making many videos lately. I've just been feeling really bad from the targeting. Just real sore all over my body. I might wait. I might wait a couple of minutes for people to get in. But if you are in chat, welcome, and I hope you're doing okay. Hey, Steven. Steven says, "What up, Kyle? How are you doing, Steven?" Steven, have you found anything like really good to defend with, like to defend your head or your vestibular system? I'm still using Dave Case CD, the lead hat. Hey, Christina. Christina says, "Hi, Kyle." Hey guys, I hope y'all had like, I guess we didn't have any holidays recently. I hope you're just doing good. I hope you're doing okay. I hope everybody's kind of not freaking out about getting Biden as president. Maybe there's still a chance. Maybe there's still a chance. But I wanted to go over tonight. And hey, Paul says, I pray for targeted individuals all over the world. In the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, in the name of Jesus Christ, please, please help targeted individuals. Please give us strength. Please give us healing. Please give us defenses. Please end this program. I wanted to show you guys tonight. I know that targeted individuals have been talking about this. The CIA agents that were remotely microwaved by Russia recently, and I wanted to read those articles just to show that, you know, everything that's going on, people are still getting cooked alive with microwaves, and that's what we need to stop. You know, I'm getting hit really hard talking to targeted individuals that are getting hit really hard, and I'm feeling pretty powerless to stop this. Steven says, I'm doing good. Same old here. No, nothing to defend as far as that stuff goes. Okay, cool, Steven. Yeah, I tried Dave Case CD. I've got the lead cap and some stuff. I wanted to find something. Somebody had mentioned the Russian military has something specific to block psychotronic weapons. I don't know how we would find out about that. I guess we need to call. Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to people about this, and they're like, yeah, the Russian military is not going to tell you anything, but they have something specific. I'm still looking. Still looking to end this program. Still looking to find some things that work a little bit better. Let's get into this, guys. Let's just well, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I'm not doing too good. Breathing a lot. Hey, Rose. Rose says, hey, Kyle. How are you doing, Rose? You getting through this okay? I'm just doing so bad, guys. Like, I can't, my memory is getting really scary. Things that I was like about to do, like say I'm about to look up something on Google, I just completely forget it. So my brain's not doing too well. I really need an end to this. It just doesn't seem like we're getting anywhere at all. Let me read these articles, guys. Let me share these with you. So we have a ton more. Let me find this first one. What? Okay, here it is. I wanted to show you guys this article from GQ. So, I mean, this is just more and more proof, more and more and more and more and more and more proof that people are getting hit remotely by microwaves and experimented on. And in this case, it's not experimentation. Let me get my tablet so I can read you guys' chats. I need to do more live streams, guys. I'm kind of getting out of the habit of it. And then I'm getting back in and I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. Like I'm hurting so bad. It's hard to get into the habit of it. I need to be doing this all the time because we got to keep going. I know a lot of people have been censored off of YouTube. Like a lot of people have just straight up left YouTube. And I'm just trying to figure out a way to keep getting this information out. But this is from GQ. This is the mystery of the Immaculate Concussion. And I don't know if people remember, but when people are going to Dr. Hoffer, I was going to Dr. Hoffer. That's kind of the terminology that Dr. Hoffer used. He used Immaculate Concussion. So he was a senior CIA official tasked with getting tough on Russia. Then one night in Moscow, Mark Palmeropoulos' life changed forever. He says he was hit with a mysterious weapon, joining dozens of American diplomats and spies who believe they've been targeted with this secret device all over the world, and joining tens of thousands to millions of just citizens around the world who know that they are being targeted with remote microwaves. And even at home on U.S. soil, now as a CIA investigation points the blame at Russia, the victims are left wondering why so little is being done by the Trump administration. How do they turn this into? How do they turn this into something about the Trump administration? There. Sounds fishy. It sounds fishy right off the bat to me, guys. Because you got CIA agents who are hit by Russian agents with microwave weapons. It seems like they're trying to put all this directed energy stuff. It's Russia's fault. It's just Russia doing it. That's kind of my first instinct on this. I'm gonna get to my page so I can read you guys y'all's chats. Mark Paul. This is gonna be a hard name to read. Mark Palmeropoulos awoke with a start. The feeling of nausea was overwhelming. Food poisoning, he thought, and decided to head for the bathroom. But when he tried to get out of bed, he fell over. He tried to stand up and fell again. It was the early morning hours of December 5th, 2017, and his Moscow hotel room was spinning around him. His ears were ringing, like I was going to both throw up and pass out at the same time. And every targeted individual knows what that feels like. I get pressure on my head where it feels like my whole body is being pressed down to the earth. And then I'll get this nauseous feeling like, and they're not hitting me in the stomach, they're hitting me in the head. Palmeropoulos. Hold on one second, guys. Get it so where I can see my chat. That's a really hard name. Hey, Charles. Hey, True Serum. Hey, Tansy. Charles says the ear is a perfect gyroscope, brother. Yeah. Okay. Rose says I've been talking to SHP. I definitely think now what she is talking about. Okay. Tansy says, I had a perp cross the line and threaten me with a hammer. You should have seen the handler swoop in. Also got to see how the police take care of out-of-control perps. Did they arrest him, Tansy? Okay, Tansy, come on back in a little while. True Serum says this another lockdown imminent. I'm afraid so. I'm afraid that the numbers are all jacked up for CV. And at least in the Democratic states right now, you know, they're going to lock everything down again. I don't want to talk about that too much because I don't want to lose my channel. We've got to talk about targeting, guys. So I want to be really careful when I talk about CV, you know. Roger MK says V2K and microwave weapons are American patented weapons. Stop insulting our intelligence by saying only Russia and China have them. Yeah, Yeah, Roger MK is right, and that's what this article kind of proposes to do. They're trying to, since all this, so I want to, we need to talk about that again. So all these angles are kind of coming together, and things are coming out. Even the Pentagon is saying, okay, there's going to be dual use 5G. So everybody knows this stuff is coming out. So now what specific countries are going to be trying to do is they're going to be trying to push it off on other countries. And that's what America is trying to do with this propaganda. Now, I mean, maybe these CIA agents were hit with something, but how do we know? How do we know it was Russian agents? Probably was. It probably was, but because this is like a non-transparent thing, how do we know it wasn't American, like, intelligence agents hitting other American intelligence agents to put the blame off on Russia? You see how complicated it gets when you're working with a weapon that's invisible, and like there can be that, like, espionage is already so complicated. What happens when it's an invisible microwave that they're dealing with, and they can say it's anybody, and they can put it off on any country? This is a mess. This is a mess way more than just us being, experimented on and tortured, which is the worst thing ever. Hey, Line in the Lamp says, hello, everyone. Hey, Jerusha McBear says, hi, everyone. So glad you're live, Kyle. I've had a horrible week. Yeah, me too, Jerusha. I've just been trying to survive, and my dad got a biopsy today. Like, everything went fine, but my dad might have prostate cancer. So, like, he was targeted. He got an aneurysm. Like, it completely changed him, and now he may have prostate cancer. So it looks like this program, like, is doing worse things to my dad than it's doing to me, and that it's really, really scary. I hope he doesn't have cancer, but that, I mean, he's been experimented on probably longer than me. Palmer Polos was a covert CIA operative, a jovial, burly man who likes to refer to himself as grizzled. Moscow was not the first time he had been on enemy territory. He had spent most of his career in the Middle East, fighting America's long war on terrorism. He had hunted terrorists in Pakistan and Yemen. He did the same in Iraq and Afghanistan. He had been shot at, ducked under rocket fire, and had shrapnel whiz by uncomfortably close to his head. But that night, paralyzed with seasickness in the landlocked Russian capital, Polymeropoulos felt terrified and utterly helpless for the first time. Struggling to regain control over his body, Polymeropoulos couldn't have imagined that this incident would upend his life. It would end a promising career that had just catapulted him into the ranks of senior CIA leadership and threw him into the middle of a growing international mystery that has puzzled diplomats and scientists and raised concerns on Capitol Hill. In the months ahead, he would come to realize that it wasn't a spoiled sandwich that had mowed him down. Rather, it was his macabre initiation into a growing club of dozens of American diplomats, spies, and government employees and citizens around the world posted abroad, and citizens around the world in every country, experimented on by their own countries, who were suffering in much the same way he was. Targets of what some experts and doctors now believe were attacks perpetrated by unknown assailants wielding novel directed energy weapons. And what have targeted individuals been saying for years and years and years? And finally, when it's like agents and blah, 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 and the Pentagon talks about it, then maybe people will be like, oh, those things exist. Though many of these apparent attacks have been publicized, including those that took place in Cuba and China, others have not been revealed until now, and some have not been revealed at all until now and have still not been revealed, including at least 3 incidents that officials from the CIA and Capitol Hill say targeted American citizens on American soil. Tens of thousands of American citizens are targeted on American soil by the military-industrial complex of America. Way to go. Way to go, news. Way to go, news. Spirit Channel says, Kyle, I just got a letter that was written by the former Vatican official, Papal Nuncio, that he wrote to the president warning that a globalist plan is being launched to totally take over the world. And yes, he is right. Papal Nuncio is right. Hey, Honey Ann, did he send it to Donald Trump? Did he send it to Donald Trump? Office. Rose says, I found out a lot of military contractors are on my network. Yeah, on my ASN number, I had so many. I just don't know. I don't know how to prove it to somebody. Okay, Spirit Channel. I'll find that letter. I think I've seen it read on YouTube. A loyal soldier of the CIA, even after his untimely retirement, Polymeropoulos has never detailed publicly what he calls his silent wounds. But in the years since he left, he has become increasingly frustrated by the agency's reluctance to give him and the other CIA officers affected with the medical care they need. Now, we know why they do that, right? They want to keep it all covered up because they're using these directed energy weapons to experiment, to scale up the weapons on United States citizens and other citizens in other countries. So obviously when a CIA agent gets hit by these weapons, they want to keep it quiet. They're not going to be like, hey, let's give you the medical attention you need. Let's give you an interview with Time magazine and stuff like that. I'm surprised that, even these articles were written. But let me tell you this. I bet you that these articles were written way after it actually happened. And I'm pretty sure that we're gonna read on, and I'm pretty sure that's true. Okay, so it's incumbent on them to provide the medical help we require, which does not include telling us that we're all making it up, he told me. I want the agency to treat this as a combat injury. There's a lot of citizens around the world, including me, including the people in this chat, that want medical treatment. We don't want to be treated like we're mentally ill either. It goes along with this article. I'm a citizen. I'm not a CIA agent, but I'm getting hit with this stuff, maybe for a different purpose. And I would like medical treatment too. And we're not receiving medical treatment. If these agents get medical treatment, we should get medical treatment. He has also grown alarmed that the agency and this administration are neither investigating nor pushing back against the apparent perpetrators, his old comrades and other Americans, in increasingly brazen ways. Well, let me explain it again, why the agency and the administration are not investigating this, because they are taking these weapons, like people connected with this administration to the military-industrial complex and the Pentagon. They're taking these weapons and experimenting on tens of thousands of Americans. So they're obviously not going to investigate the same weapons that Russia's using to get into a special agent's head and see what they're thinking, right? Remote neural monitoring. In a statement to GQ, CIA representatives said that the agency's top priority is the health and well-being of our officers, followed very closely by collecting on hard targets, including Russia, and providing the intelligence to policymakers. Suggestions otherwise in your story are simply not true. There's a lot of incredible unease and disgust with the agency leadership in the Office of Medical Services on this issue, Polymeropoulos told me. Polymeropoulos told me. That leadership, he says, has not done right by us. There's a lot of people who are very upset. And how can I say this? The agency is going to have to answer for this. I think somebody's going to have to answer for a whole lot. Okay, so in this part, it's a long article, guys. I put it in the description. Now, I don't want to read the whole history of his trip, but I do want to read this. Okay. Okay, let's read the end of this. But Polymeropoulos figured he had no reason to fear for his physical safety. Okay, wait. He knew he had to be careful in Russia and be wary of Russian agents trying to entrap him in compromising situations. For example, the beautiful young women at the rooftop bar of the Moscow Ritz-Carlton, who seemed determined to chat him up and his colleague. But Polymeropoulos figured he had no reason to fear for his physical safety. Even after that awful night in the Marriott, Polymeropoulos did not immediately suspect anything malicious. By morning, the worst of the symptoms had passed, and he seemed to be doing better. Wait. But even after that awful night in the Marriott, okay, his symptoms had passed. What happened at the Marriott? Hold on one second. Okay, I don't know what happened in the Marriott. Okay, let's read this. Wait, hold on one second, guys. Okay, even after that awful night in the Marriott, Polymeropoulos did not immediately suspect anything malicious. By morning, the worst of the symptoms had passed, and he seemed to be doing better, confirming his suspicion that it had just been something he'd eaten. Just a few hours. Okay, so he must have felt really bad one night. He thought it was food poisoning. Just a few hours after he'd been incapacitated, he managed to get on a train to St. Petersburg, where he felt well enough to walk for miles, duck into more dive bars, and even glimpse the famous troll factory. He even did some Christmas shopping for his wife and kids. That miserable, terrifying night in his Moscow hotel room receded in his memory. 2 days before the end of his trip, Polymeropoulos and his colleagues were eating dinner at Pushkin, a posh Moscow restaurant, when he suddenly felt the room begin to spin again, just as it had in the hotel room that night. A wave of nausea hit, and he was suddenly drenched in sweat. He barely made it back to his hotel room, where, having canceled all his meetings, he stayed for the rest of his trip, unable to move. His body was in revolt, and I made it back on the airplane somehow, Polymeropoulos said. It wasn't until Polymeropoulos got home to the Virginia suburbs, that it occurred to him that what had happened in Moscow was possibly the result of something far more sinister than what he'd originally suspected. In February, after a few weeks of relative normalcy, he started feeling an intense and painful pressure that started in the back of his head and radiated forward into his face. And that is every day for me, y'all. Probably a lot of you guys, but every day for me, it's like pressure, painful, intense pressure, and it goes like forward on my face, but sometimes it feels like starting on my face. And listen to this. He went to an ear, nose, and throat specialist who Polymeropoulos says thought it might be a sinus infection. But Polymeropoulos' scans were clear, and a course of antibiotics did not alleviate the pain. If anything, it was growing steadily worse. The vertigo and nausea came roaring back. His ears started ringing again. The vertigo and nausea came roaring back. His ears started ringing again. His brain was swathed in a dense fog. By March, his long-distance vision started going, and he could no longer drive. Repeated MRI and CAT scans showed nothing suspicious, but Polymeropoulos was now feeling so ill that he started calling out sick. There was no way this was all the result of food poisoning 2 months prior, Polymeropoulos realized. But what could it have been? He told me his colleagues at the CIA believed he could have been the target of some kind of technical attack. But what kind? Yeah, right. His colleagues would have known exactly what that was. Polymeropoulos wondered if the Russians had inadvertently injured him while trying to collect the data in his phone remotely. It was the kind of thing all intelligence services did, the Americans included. Polymeropoulos figured the Russians had just turned up the juice too much. Now, check this out, though, guys. This is a CIA agent, right? This is a CIA agent who was in Russia who started getting attacked by remote microwaves, like remote neural monitoring, external microwave hits, the high-pitched ring sound, everything like that. And he didn't know what the heck was going on. A CIA, you see the compartmentalization there? Not every CIA agent knows about this stuff because it's compartmentalized. But as his symptoms grew worse, Polymer Perillos and his agents, I'm not going to be able to get that name right, Polymeropoulos and his agency colleagues noticed that his symptoms lined up with those of American diplomats who had apparently been attacked in Havana. In late 2016, some 24 Americans stationed in the revived embassy in Cuba began reporting strange new phenomena. Some heard a strange noise, sometimes high-pitched, sometimes low, and felt a sudden pressure in the skull. Others heard nothing at all, but many of them developed vertigo and nausea and had trouble sleeping, difficulty concentrating, persistent headaches, and changes in vision and hearing. Like Polymeropoulos' constellation of symptoms, some of these effects waxed and waned at seemingly random intervals, while others seemed impossible to cure, all to maddening effect. You know what I find really funny, y'all? I find it really, really funny that people, they say people that have CV, it's like they have this whole spectrum of things going on with them. You know, it could be diarrhea, it could be like heart murmurs, it could be a sore throat, it could be a runny nose, it could be a headache, it could just be anything, because they just want to put it into that, you know, they want to put it into that category of CV. But with us, like with targets, it's like if somebody's targeted, the symptoms are so super similar in every case. High-pitched ringing sound, headaches, burning on the head, burning on the skin. They're across the board, not just like, oh, it could be diarrhea, it could be this. And nobody gives a shit about what's going on with us, but they're like, everybody's deathly afraid of CV. And we know why that is, because of the lying in society. Hey, Tanya, how are you doing? Hey, Anthony. Hey, Ace. Yeah, Cuba confirmed. Cuba confirmed. What stuff works? Ace. Ace says, I worked in a paper factory. There was a hydraulic press with a blade. Very dangerous. Yeah, Jerusha McBear says, yeah, there's a lot of death coming. I'm afraid so. Afraid that a lot of us are being poisoned and murdered as we speak. And then they're just going to, like, you know, create artificial hurricanes and weather systems, fires. Yet Jerusha says, yes, I noticed that too. That crap vid is the same symptoms. So convenient. Tanya says, not well, Kyle. I hope you're doing great. Much love, mate. Much love to you, Tanya. I'm not doing very good. My brain is, I'm like stuttering a lot because it's hard for me to keep on a regular track of communication. My attackers are hurting me really bad, like down in the middle of my back. I'm trying to just keep healing up every day. Find some more defensive things. I've got some things to hold back, but I want to find better things. Okay, Line in the Lamb says, Anthony, I used a signal-proof beanie, then a rubber mat. The Russian steel military helmet. Got tired of the baseball bat to the head. Yeah. Yeah, if you use something, some kind of passive shielding, and I'd say passive shielding that covers the neck and the head, you might have to leave the face open. Then you can tone some of this stuff down. I'm about to get, what was I about to get? I want to get the copper fabric, but I'm like doing really bad on money. Okay, so as word of what was happening in Havana seeped out into the press, oh yeah, and I'm getting a beanie from lambs.com. Lambs.com. Lambs.com, I'm getting a beanie, but it takes forever. Like it takes weeks if you order it. So lambs.com, they have a really good shielding beanie. It says it shields out 99.9% of non-ionizing microwave radiation. And then so I'll have the beanie the lead cap, the less EMF headgear, grounding, guys. Then Dave Case's CD. And then I don't really have anything. The grounding's really for body shielding for me. Okay, so as word of what was happening in Havana seeped out into the press, everyone seemed to have an opinion on the events, but no one, not even the CIA, knew for certain who was responsible. I'd say Cuban intelligence. I'm still saying Cuban intelligence. Cuban intelligence gets help from Russia. Russia gives Cuban intelligence weapons in exchange for data on Cuba's own citizens and the data that it can collect on American embassy workers that are really CIA agents. So Russia gives Cuban intelligence these technologies, and then Cuban intelligence has a deal with Russia, right? So I think Cuban intelligence was the one who did that to embassy workers. Some speculated that it had been an acoustic attack. Some believed the culprits were hardliners in the Cuban security services who had been determined to sabotage Havana's new detente with Washington. Now that's an interesting theory. A couple of rogue, like, Cuban intelligence members who were pushed out in the last administration or something, and they had a hard line on wanting to make Cuba's relations with Washington really bad. That actually sounds believable. Still others believed it was all made up, the product of paranoid imaginations or collective anxiety. That is obvious. That's the one that's never true at all. In this world of crazy, bizarre stuff, if everybody's like, oh, it's just mass hysteria, that's never the case in any kind of bizarre situation anymore, because the world is bizarre and the world is sci-fi. We're living in sci-fi now. So nothing is ever like, oh, well, those people are just delusional, or are they just mad? No, it's never that. Some of the 24 Americans affected in Havana had been CIA officers. Did you see that, guys? Did you see that? Some of the 24 Americans affected in Havana had been CIA officers under diplomatic cover. So I wonder why they were remote neural monitoring them. I wonder why Cuban intelligence or a hardliner security industry in Cuba, or maybe even Russia in play over in Cuba, would want to see what those CIA officers were doing under under diplomatic cover. Though these apparent attacks baffled officials, it's amazing how it took them so long to admit that. Like, you saw it in a couple of articles at the beginning, like where they weren't really ready, and then that disappeared. These were embassy workers, right? And now it's only years later where they're admitting that these were CIA officers. Though these apparent attacks baffled officials at the agency, there was growing suspicion inside CIA headquarters, according to two sources familiar with the discussions, that these attacks had been the work of Russian security services. Let me read that again. There was growing suspicion inside CIA headquarters, according to two sources familiar with the discussions, that these attacks had been the work of Russian security services. It was not a wild stretch, and many in Washington's foreign policy national security universe were thinking along the same lines. Since 2014, the Russians had become increasingly brazen in going after the U.S. and its allies, and they had every reason to peel their old Cuban allies away from the Americans' embrace. These guys have been told they can take the gloves off and do whatever they want to hurt Americans, says a former national security official. They're trying to weaken us generally, and they've obviously taken the gloves off quite some time ago. It's just interesting whenever they talk about, like, maybe Russia has microwave weapons or maybe Cuba has microwave weapons. Right? This is an obvious thing. They don't say, well, we have microwave weapons and we use them on our own citizens. You know, we have microwave weapons that we're trying to do training, research, and development on. It's just always passing the buck. Okay, so let's see. Okay, yeah, we'll read this. By the spring of 2018, Polymeropoulos was convinced he was a new addition to the Havana victims' ranks. What's more, he told me, the agency colleague who had accompanied him to Moscow was now also sick and had lost hearing in one of his ears. But according to Polymeropoulos, I think I may have got it on that one, the leadership of the CIA's Office of Medical Services told him they didn't agree. They put Polymeropoulos through a series of tests they had developed in an attempt to see if he had in fact suffered the same brain injuries as the CIA officers in Havana. They asked him to walk in a straight line and to perform simple cognitive tasks. But by this time, Polymeropoulos' vertigo had disappeared. Despite the pain and debilitating fatigue, he could now walk just fine. Maybe it's because they had pulled off of him, right? Because they're attacking him, right? This is obvious, right? Like my attacks will be remote neural manipulating me. They'll be hitting me with microwaves. They'll pull off a little bit, and I'll feel a little bit better. I'll feel like, oh, okay, my headache's gone, and I can do tasks now, you know? So we've all experienced that to a degree. For some people, they don't pull off at all. For some people, they pull off sometimes, you know. With me, it's like sometimes I do get a little bit of external hit relief, you know. A Spade says you can do nothing about anything until you have countermeasures, concealment, cover. But you got to start building some of that, right, Ace? It's like you're saying you can't do anything until you have like countermeasures, concealment, cover. So you got to build your defenses first, and at least stop some of the pain. Then we work on, you know, I think our greatest countermeasure is just awareness, like, because we're not going to be able to battle them with weapons. We're not going to be able to develop our own weapons and hit our attackers back in a correct way, right? So our best weapon is going to be like making other people aware to the point where it's like, oh, it's a big problem in society. We're getting articles like this where it's like they shut this guy up, guys. Like they kept this CIA agent quiet. They were like, don't come out and talk about this. But now, why is he talking about this? Why is this CIA? Because they know it's coming out, right? This is a definite. The timeline, I don't know. But they know it's coming out, and now they're looking at, they're pointing fingers at Russia. America's pointing fingers at Russia. Probably Russia will point fingers at America. China will point fingers at both of them, you know, because it's coming out. There's too much out about this. Yeah, Anthony says, I was reluctant to do YouTube videos mainly because most of the TI community on YouTube is fake. But Anthony, you really, if most of the YouTube targeted individuals are fake, that means you need to make videos. It means we need a lot of real targeted individuals making videos. So if you're a TI that's like, I feel like everybody's fake, then that means you need to make videos somewhere. YouTube, BitChute, DLive, something. We got to get stuff going. We got to keep talking about this stuff. That more and more stuff. This is what I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling like more and more information's coming out. More and more things are popping their head out of the ground. But we're all really tired. I'm going by me and some other target individuals, but like we're so just exhausted. But it's a time where a lot of information is coming out. So we got to get our second win, and we got to get some of the targeted individuals who maybe new targeted individuals that still have energy, you know, putting this stuff out. Yeah. Bruce says good point. Yeah, if you think there's a lot of fakes, then that means you need to do it. You need to do it. Yeah, Tansy says, Anthony, true, but show no fear. We are on the side of good, and that really does mean we are special and strong. It means everything. There's this movie where the guy is like, he's like, we were on the right side, and the other guy was on the bad side, but they won the war. And he goes, yeah, you were on the right side, but it was also the losing side. And then the guy goes, well, being on the right side means a whole lot more. And then in like after a period of time, the good side did win, right? Sometimes the bad side wins for a while. Sometimes things are really bad. Oftentimes in the world, most things are really bad and corrupt, but good has its wins. We can still do good in the world, you know. TJ Antipa says, is there anyone that's not targeted? It's crazy everywhere. That's what I'm thinking, TJ, because my whole family's targeted. Like my mom, my dad, my aunt, I think my brother, like most of the people I meet, you know, have something weird going on. The Breakaway Civilization says their real TI aren't staying afloat. Yeah, tons of real TIs are not staying afloat. I've still got my place, but I'm low on money. Like I'm super low on money. Jerusha says they almost killed me, then tried to force me to go to the hospital, but I refused. They asked me 25 times. My body swole up like crazy. I'm at home and in so much pain. I have a fever too, barely breathing. Guys, y'all might want to try this. I'm kind of trying to cut down on kratom, so I'm trying other things to reduce inflammation. This is Curamed. It's not Curamin, it's Curamed. Curamed, Curamed, superior absorption curcumin. So this should reduce some inflammation. It's Curamed. I'm taking that and then some other supplements too. Taking Neurontin still, but I'm not taking Neurontin all the time. Okay, so let's continue reading, guys. So this is a really good, this is total proof. You guys share these articles everywhere. Let's focus on, I know everything's crazy, CV, the election, oh my God, what's going to happen to us if that man takes office. But we need to just keep putting this information out about targeting. We need it because I'm seeing, like I said, like my other live streams, I'm seeing these hardcore signs that now they're like, this is dribbling out in a lot of ways. And we need to poke a lot of holes so that it can pour out, so it can keep pouring out. I mean, like, we're all being targeted. We got to stop this stuff. Bruce says, CBD oil, 1,000 milligrams helps with pain, etc. Man, I couldn't sleep much before that, and it helps with inflammation also. Yeah, a lot of targeted individuals get relief with CBD oil. Hey, Craig. Yeah, Craig says, I'm a real TI. I believe you. Anthony says, same, Jerusha. I cry every day, multiple times a day. My body feels weak, and I'm always in extreme physical pain. This is like being in a free-range electronic prison. Yeah, I agree. It's like being in a, you know, a microwave concentration camp. It's like but I don't feel like locked in, like I'm in a, like I'm like in a microwave cage. I feel like they've locked me here. Like I have an electromagnetic field. They've locked my brain down. I feel more like they've locked my head down, and my body's being tortured. So I'm like in a head prison because they've done remote neural manipulation so long they can just like lock my brain down, lock my memories down. So I feel like they're in control of my thinking. So I'm in a thought prison. Like, I mean, I guess physical. Yeah, Ace Space says they lock us in them cages. Yeah, dude, and yeah, there's so many people that are targeted. I don't know why. I don't know why we're not just like flowing. This information's not just flowing everywhere and in local news and everything. It's amazing that they've kept this at bay like this. Hey, New Type says they can kill us at any time. Get over it. Look death right in the eyes and have no fear. Then all other fears dissipate and their attacks are less effective. I think that's good advice. Get your bottom line thing. You want to survive. You're not afraid of death, and you're going to fight this. You know, I think they can. You know, this is my thing. I think they could kill us at any time, but you got to understand in these management structures, they have, like, my attackers have managers over them. They can't just go ahead and kill me. I've put videos out, right? I put videos, I put my face out there. I'm connected to my family and stuff like that. So if they just kill me, there's going to be some questions going on after I put out all this information about that. Keep that in mind, guys. Put some information out about what's going on with you. You might get punished, but it might, the management of your attackers might be like, well, we can't kill them because they're putting their face out there. They're putting information out there. you know, yeah, I think they definitely could with the power of the weapons. They could kill us, but I think there are rules that they have got to abide by, and their managers and stuff like that. Craig says they also listen to my conversations and tamper with things in my home and move stuff around. Yeah. Tansy says I've organized a prayer group in the park I'm staying at and have a friend getting baptized in the ocean tomorrow. Oh, that sounds really cool. Okay, let's continue with this article, guys. Well, Ace Spade says if I am killed, my someone. Yeah, all of our families, especially if you've really pushed your family and showed them information about this, and then you die in a weird way at a young age, it starts to get questionable. But okay, so by the spring of 2018, Maropoulos was convinced he was a new addition to the Havana victims rank. Did I already read this? What's more, he told me, the agency colleague who had accompanied him to Moscow was now also sick and had lost hearing in one of his ears. But according to Polymeropoulos, the leadership of the CIA's Office of Medical Services told him they didn't agree. They put Polymeropoulos through a series of tests they had developed in an attempt to see if he had in fact suffered the same brain injuries as CIA officers in Havana. They asked him to walk in a straight line. Ooh, this here, because Dr. Hoffer told me this. This is what Dr. Hoffer told me. That I have no doubt that you are targeted with directed energy. This is what he said to me. I have no doubt that you are targeted with directed energy, but you're not targeted in exactly the same way as the Cuban embassy workers were. So I've got the high-pitched sound. I'm getting dizzy, blah, 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 everything, headaches, external hits burning my skin. But he's like, you're not targeted exactly the way that the Cuban embassy workers were. Now, what I kind of concluded from that was that they had a specific physical malformation in their ear from their attack. So specific integrated directed energy weapon systems that did something to their ear. Now with mine, maybe with some of y'all's, you get some kind of specific damage to the ear, but with mine, it's like I'm getting targeted and it doesn't have that same detail to the ear. Because when you're getting targeted with microwaves, you're getting the high pitched sound. It's similar, right? But it's kind of a testament to them not having any idea about or trying to hide this and stuff like that, and going, oh well, no, it's not. Your ear doesn't have something exactly the same. Everything else with you is exactly the same. But no, you're not in the same category, right? They're really trying to do that hard. So they put Polymeropoulos series of tests they had developed in an attempt to see if he had in fact suffered the same brain injuries as the CIA officers in Havana. They asked him to walk in a straight line and perform simple cognitive tasks, but by this time Polymeropoulos' vertigo had disappeared. Despite the pain and debilitating, we already read this on. Despite the pain and debilitating fatigue, he could now walk just fine, even if he hadn't been able to stand up without falling over that night in Moscow. It didn't seem to matter. The OMS doctors declared that he had passed the test. No Havana syndrome. Polymeropoulos told me that his colleague was also cleared. In a statement to GQ, Keith Bass, the director of the Office of Medical Services, said CIA's Office of Medical Services would, of course, never comment on anyone's physical or mental health, but I will reiterate that our top priority is taking care of agency personnel. The CIA, their biggest thing is hiding everything and doing training, research, and development and psyops on American citizens. They don't care about anybody's health. If they don't care about the health of innocent American citizens, let me tell you, officers that signed up to be CIA agents or any kind of officer, their ass is grass. Their ass is grass, and they belong to the military-industrial complex to do with whatever they want if innocent citizens are being experimented on for their whole lives. Still, the intense pressure and pain in Polymeropoulos' head would not abate. He started seeing doctors on his own: neurologists, infectious disease specialists, allergists, dentists, eye doctors, sleep specialists, pain experts, neck and spine doctors. Sounds fair. Countless tests, scans, injections, rounds of steroids, and antibiotics did nothing to diagnose or alleviate the now round-the-clock migraine he had developed. He was in constant pain, which was exacerbated by his staring at a computer for long periods of time. Sitting still for more than an hour or two would sap his energy completely. But the demands of Polymeropoulos' job didn't let up. Running the CIA's clandestine operations across Europe and Eurasia and managing thousands of agents required 12-hour days packed with long meetings and hours spent in front of computer screens. Before long, he had taken a total of 4 months off work, maxing out his sick leave. Okay, so this is a very important part right here. Meanwhile, the roster of victims was growing ever longer. In June 2018, the U.S. State Department evacuated nearly a dozen people from China, where American diplomats and trade representatives reported feeling symptoms eerily similar to those their colleagues had experienced in Cuba. One victim, Catherine Werner, said that her symptoms began in late 2017, just as Polymeropoulos' had: a splitting headache, nausea, loss of balance. When her mother went to Guangzhou to help her, she too fell ill. Even Werner's dogs were affected, her mother told NBC News. They began vomiting blood and avoiding the room where Werner and her mother heard the sounds and felt the symptoms start. Okay, let's see. Now, this is really interesting. In the spring of 2018, a private neurologist gave Polymeropoulos a diagnosis. So this is what we want to listen to this very carefully, guys. A private neurologist gave Polymeropoulos a diagnosis, occipital neuralgia. I was diagnosed with that. I was diagnosed with that before the overt targeting. I was diagnosed with occipital neuralgia because I had pain coming up the back of my head, like to my eye. But this is before I even knew, like I was targeted, before I heard the high-pitched sound, before anything like that. So I think by implant, I was getting this stimulation to the, to the head and the vestibular system. Occipital neuralgia, a condition resulting from damage to the two nerves that run from the base of the skull, curving toward the front of the head. Despite the private diagnosis, Polymeropoulos says the agency kept refusing to refer him to the University of Pennsylvania, telling him it wasn't necessary. And that's exactly where he needed to go. Oh no, Craig. Craig says they paid my friend to try and murder me. Bruce says, Line and Lamb, yes, I think they get promoted and or bonuses. These weapons, in my opinion, are being tested on us to see if they can push suicide. Yeah, that's one of the angles, Bruce. Testing so many things, experimenting so many things, seeing how they can push somebody's religious beliefs or push them into not believing that or push them into committing suicide or pushing them in implanted or something like that, seeing how they can push people, seeing how they can isolate people, just every kind of awful sort of Zetsung thing to a human being, and then collecting the data from the brain and the nervous system is what they're doing. But yeah, like seeing if they can get somebody to commit suicide is one of them. Okay, Line and the Lamb says, Anthony, that was on Ella's channel. We all have life insurance and different loans in our names. They launder money through our names with dummy loans. You can look your name up. Targeted Justice showed it. Now, check out Targeted Justice website to see how we check out what kind of insurance policies have been taken out on us. And that seems very true because my ASN number had many insurance companies attached to, like labs, contractors, and other organizations like that. Okay, so occipital neuralgia. As he grasped for an explanation, Polymeropoulos was paying careful attention to what was being discovered about the incidents in Cuba and China. By the summer of 2000, you see that? So he had been hit before that, and they told him to shut up, right? And so he's just talking in an article in 2020, almost 2021, of something that happened like 2015, like 6 years ago. That happened 6 years ago. And he's just talking to people at GQ in this other article that I'm going to show you guys. As he grasped for an explanation, Polymeropoulos was paying careful. Okay. By the summer of 2018, scientists, intelligence officials, and journalists were zeroing in on a potential culprit: microwave weapons. Yes, and that's what it is. The notion of weaponizing microwaves dates back to the Cold War, it dates back way further, probably World War II, when in 1961, an American biologist named Alan Frey discovered that irradiating a human head with microwaves could produce the sensation of sound, even in deaf ears, even from thousands of feet away, radar, microwave radar from thousands of feet away. I'd say thousands of yards away now, maybe even longer. Playing with the frequency and intensity of the microwave beam could produce a range of different sensations in a person. In 2018, Frey told the New York Times notice of his work and flew him to Moscow, where they squired him around secret military facilities and asked him to give lectures about the effects of microwaves on the brain. It's a really long article. It's a lot of the history of it. It's important history. Let's read a little bit more. Let's see how much longer it is. It's really long. Kind of wanted to read this other article, but this is really, really important stuff. This is super important. What do you got? You guys want to just read the rest of this article, or y'all want to go to the other article? This is really important stuff, because this is like, this. I think they talk about the Senate, what the government is this. Let's finish this one, or let's read some more of it. It's really long. If the incidents were connected to directed energy weapons, the question remained, who was deploying them against U.S. personnel? Well, everybody, every military industrial complex in the world has directed energy weapons. So, the military, industrial, or intelligence agencies in other countries, take your pick. And then U.S. intelligence agencies using them against other people from other countries who come over here, right? I'm sure there have been, this is my thing, I'm sure there have been some news stories in Russia about Russian embassy workers returning to Russia and being hit by microwaves, and they didn't know who it was, and it was like in America, and then America just covered up that story, right? So I'm sure there's lots of like people who are like secretly CIA agents because of this surveillance, where these intelligence agencies in other countries, they're scanning. They want to see who's a secret agent, and then they start remote neural monitoring them and attacking them and targeting them, so they get the hell out of their country, right? And America probably does the same thing over here. Then, in addition to just experimenting like us, all over the world. Russia certainly had the technology, but several other countries had also developed or purchased these capabilities. A Ukrainian researcher had reportedly sold the technology to the Saudi government. The Chinese and possibly the Iranian governments are also said to possess these capabilities. The Cuban government adamantly denied hitting American diplomats, but their security services were notoriously close to Moscow's. Surely the Russians could have shared the technology with their old anti-American allies. I said that Russia probably gave technology to Cuban intelligence. I said that back when it happened. Like, when did it happen? It happened like 2016. I said that way back then. They're writing articles like in 2021 saying maybe it was Russia that gave the technology to Cuban, Cuban intelligence. Sitting in his office in Langley, Polymeropoulos was convinced he knew who was behind these apparent attacks: Moscow. He had been charged with pushing back against the Russians, and now he figured the Russians were retaliating, including against him personally. Without conclusive intelligence linking the attacks to the Kremlin, however, there was little he could do. 2018 holiday season and the one-year anniversary of that night in the Marriott rolled around, Polymeropoulos had an idea. It was customary for the heads of the Russian and American clandestine services to exchange holiday cards. By now, he understood the Russians well enough to know that the ritual of these kinds of holiday swaps was extremely important in Russian culture, especially in the world of Russian bureaucracy. It was a sign of respect and an acknowledgement of status. Before the cards went out, Polymeropoulos wrote to the new CIA director, his old comrade Gina Haskell, and asked her not to send holiday cards to the Russians that year. According to the sources familiar with the incident, Polymeropoulos had hit his mark. The Russians were furious. No Christmas cards. In April 2019, after 26 years at the agency, Polymeropoulos decided to retire from the CIA. He was a decorated senior intelligence officer serving in top post, and he was still relatively young. There had been talk of promotions and even a bigger future, but whatever happened in the Moscow Marriott had changed all that. It's interesting how in Cuba there's a specific hotel, right? And then it seems like in Russia, this Marriott, there's this hotel where, go to stay. Other people go to stay who might be American citizens, on and on. You know what I'm saying? And they end up getting targeted with microwave weapons in these specific hotels. Like there are operations set up to get their unique brainwave signatures in those hotels and then remotely target them wherever they go. You guys know what I'm talking about? You guys understand what I'm saying? Yeah, Jerusha says, Kyle, you won't believe this, but I'm also diagnosed with occipital neuralgia, etc., etc., etc. Is it natural, though? See, I don't think mine's natural. I don't think yours is natural. Yeah, thank you. Tansy says, this is very interesting information, Kyle. Thanks for sharing it with us. Yeah, we're going to read a little bit more. I didn't know that this article had so much important information in it. I knew it had the incident, but we need to go ahead and read some more. And what I might do is break it up in two parts. We'll go for a little bit longer, and then maybe tomorrow or the next day I'll come on and do a live stream, finish up this article and the other article. We'll go through some more though. But do you guys see this, right? You see this. We need to be on this. This stuff is coming out, but there's this huge, like, look over here. We know this, look over here, CV, the election. Everybody's like, oh my God, we got to get bug out back and stuff. And while all this weird stuff is going on, the New World Order is taking over, they're trickling this stuff out. They're trickling the targeting, what's going on to agents, the Pentagon saying dual use 5G, this stuff, the UN thing, all this is like trickling out while we have all these other big problems that other people are like looking at, right? So we got to stay on top of this stuff. Hey, Tip says, I've noticed people saying they had trouble breathing, but don't know about GS, just regular people. Recently, then they get the COVID test. Yeah. I've had to wear a mask a lot. I've been wearing a mask, if I have to, and I get, I have a lot of trouble breathing. And my attackers, I think, are doing the remote neural manipulation, like making it harder to take in oxygen to my lungs while I have the mask on. Yeah. Jerusha McBair says, I have no idea how it could be natural to have occipital neuralgia illness. Someone clubbed you in the back of the head. Yeah. To just get it out of nowhere. Yeah, this is really, really important information. More intelligence agents getting hit with remote microwaves a long time ago, and they weren't allowed to talk about it, and now they're coming out. So who knows? We might have a lot of people who were hushed up, a lot of people who were hushed up about this, more and more of them coming out and talking about it. Yeah. Like that one. Never give them what they want. Whatever your attackers want from you, give them the opposite. They want you yelling at them. They want you angry. They want you just all the negative emotions. So if we can just somehow get victories and stay up, stay up, stay faith-based. I know this is terrible. I know this is terrible. And like, I'm having a lot more trouble because I'm just like organically depressed. But we've got to try and keep our frequencies up. Oh, hold on. That's the wrong one. We're probably going to have to do that one the next live stream, guys. I may cut up some of these live streams just so, because I'm getting because my attackers start like hitting my brain, and then I really start forgetting things, and I've been stuttering lately. I've been stuttering, well, just on live streams. I think when I'm talking to people normally, it's not as bad, but on live stream, when I'm trying to organize my thought, now I've been stuttering a lot. Like my brain, I'm gonna have to go to. I'm setting all my doctor's appointments up, but it's tough. Okay, so what happened in the Moscow Marriott had changed all that. I had a lot more to offer. Polymeropoulos told me. I was 50, but I had to retire because these GED headaches don't go away. In July of that year, he walked out of Langley for the last time. Gradually, Polymeropoulos settled into his post-CIA life. Okay, let's blah, blah, blah. He got a contract to write a book about leadership. A speaking agent promised him, but he was still struggling with constant migraines, fatigue, and an inability to concentrate. He had heard that some people suffering from Havana syndrome were getting effective treatment at Walter Reed. Walter Reed, guys, Walter Reed, the nation's top military hospital, but he would need a referral from CIA doctors to go there. Oh my God. Even after his injury had forced his retirement, he says the leadership to help. So at Walter Reed, guys, this is what I'm getting from this. At Walter Reed, they're taking like military intelligence agents that are getting hit with microwaves from other countries. They have to have a CIA doctor refer them to Walter Reed, and they're trying to give these people treatment. Are they trying to give these officers treatment, these agents treatment, or are they trying to study what other countries are doing to them? Wow. So there's a top military hospital that actually tries to treat people like officers that are being hit with microwave weapons like us. How mad does that make everybody? How mad does that make everybody? Yeah, okay, so Rose says, I was on SHP's panel on her last YouTube video she did. I come on towards the end of the video. So SH space P, she's doing live streams, she's doing panels, guys, so check her channel out and support her. She's doing a lot of great work. Yeah, Craig says, I despise this program. It's just hell on earth. There are still good things, though, guys. Remember, there's still good things. There's still great things in this life. There's still victories. There's still joy. There's still people that you want to know. There's still beautiful things to create. I know it's hard. I'm pushing too, because like my brain's being so messed up. Even the things that I enjoy, it's like I no longer enjoy them. Even things that are great in my life, it's like I'm so depressed. It's hard to feel the right way about them. But we can't let this beat us. We can't let this cowardly crap beat us. And you know, a lot of us, I don't know, a lot of you guys might be new targeted individuals, but probably not. A lot of us targeted individuals, we've been fighting so long. I cannot give up. I cannot say, oh, I've been fighting too long. Too many people have lost their lives. You know, we've got to see the good in this. But I get your point. It's hell on earth. It is hell on earth. It's like it's hell on earth because we know that life can be so good. That's a quote from Dante's Inferno. It's not that exactly, but it's like hell was even more hellish because knowing the beautiful things in the world. I didn't say it right, but that was basically the quote. But this is, look, Walter Reed, they are trying to actually give officers' treatment who are being hit by microwaves. So they know about this stuff. You got doctors at Walter Reed that have officers coming in there saying, I got ringing in my ears. It's not something organic, that people know about this stuff. Polymeropoulos was still in touch with his friends and colleagues at Langley, and what they told him alarmed him. Apparent attacks were continuing around the world. Polymeropoulos was still in touch with his friends and colleagues at Langley, and what they told him alarmed him. This is a proliferation of remote microwave weapons. It's a proliferation of integrated directed energy weapon systems, guys. Hang on. If you are a targeted individual listening to this, hang on. SHFT, what is it? SHTF, whatever. S is hitting the fan. Like, this stuff is coming out because there's so much of this technology everywhere. People are just using it on everybody, and it's starting to bubble up in important, like, I'm not going to say we're not important, but in places where people will pay attention. So hang on, guys. Hang on. We push this stuff out. Two sources with knowledge of the situation. Okay, so apparent attacks were continuing around the world. Two sources with knowledge of the situation and who asked for anonymity to discuss matters that they did not have authorization to disclose to the press told me about the ongoing attacks. In the fall of 2019, two top CIA officials, both in the clandestine service, traveled to Australia to meet with officials in that country's spy agency. Okay, so these are the two CIA officials that got hit in Australia. So the one that they made the article about, he got hit in Russia in like 2016. Dude, there's officers everywhere getting hit with this stuff, and they're trying to cover it up because they're experimenting on us. They're experimenting on normal citizens around the world. Australia is part of the Five Eyes Intelligence Sharing Alliance with the US, the UK, Canada, and New Zealand. While in their hotel rooms in Australia, both of the Americans felt it. The strange sound, the pressure in their heads, the ringing in their ears. According to these sources, they became nauseous and dizzy. They then traveled on to Taiwan to meet with intelligence officials there. They felt it again while in their hotel rooms on the island. So in Australia, then they went to Taiwan. So they went from Australia to Taiwan, and they were feeling the same thing, showing that it's remote integrated directed energy weapon systems. By now, this was no longer a novel occurrence. This, listen to this. Listen to this. What? We have articles coming out in 2020 that's like hit remotely by microwaves officers because we're saying that all the citizens who say this is happening to them, we're calling them mentally ill. This is becoming a huge thing. A bunch of officers are getting hit with remote microwave weapons. Wow. It's just happening everywhere. You see, guys, so hang on. Hang on. They're trying to cover it up. But when you try and cover up, what's something that like bubbles up, right? Like say that you're boiling a bunch of like something that bubbles over, it boils, and you're trying to cover it with your hands, and it's going to bubble up over your hands. By now, this was no longer a novel occurrence, and CIA people had come to calling it getting hit. One senior intelligence officer in EEMC, the center Polymeropoulos used to run, had gotten hit twice while traveling undercover. First in Poland in the spring of 2019. Yep, Poland intelligence has a lot of these weapons. Then again in Tbilisi, Georgia, that fall. He too was diagnosed with occipital neuralgia. That was the first thing I got diagnosed. I got diagnosed with TMJ and occipital neuralgia back in like 2000, boy, in the early 2000s. Boy, in the early 2000s. I've been targeted so long, y'all. I know a lot of you guys have too. He too was diagnosed with occipital neuralgia and experienced symptoms similar to Polymeropoulos. He declined to be interviewed for this article. According to these sources, the attacks were becoming increasingly daring. One of the CIA officials hit in Australia and Taiwan was among the agency's 5 highest ranking officials. One of the CIA officials hit in Australia and Taiwan was among the agency's 5 highest. Can you say decompartmentalization, homeboys, homies, homettes? homies. This is gonna what have we been saying for years? We just need like a senator's daughter to get hit, or like a CIA agent that's really high up that doesn't know about it. Dude, this decompartmentalization of this. Yeah, Craig says, I miss having a normal life and having family, friends, and tired of being robbed of my happiness and my belongings. We gotta fight, y'all. We gotta fight. You'll find things in the fight. You'll find things to love in the fight. You will find things to love in the fight against this. And you will find your faith, and you will find strength that you never knew you had. I'm not just saying these things. These are true things. Like, I'm tired too, but we have to fight. We have to fight. Because there's actually hope. There's actually hope in a lot of this bubbling up and coming out, but we have to like push. We're just going to have to push. Okay, so whoever was behind the attacks also began going after Americans on American soil. Oh, well, me, I'm an American on American soil, and all these people in chat are Americans on American soil, and every target individual on microwave is an American on American soil being experimented on by American contractors. So you're a lying article. American diplomat and his spouse, who had been hit when they were stationed in China, traveled to Philadelphia to get specialized treatment at the University of Pennsylvania. One night in June 2018, according to 3 government sources, the couple was startled awake by a sound and pressure in their heads similar to what they had felt back in China. On the advice of FBI agents, the family moved to a hotel, but on their second night there, they were again awoken in the early morning hours. Terrified, the parents ran into the room where their children were sleeping to find them moving in their sleep bizarrely and in unison. In the weeks afterward, the children developed vision and the family members whose identities GQ is not revealing for privacy reasons declined to be interviewed for this story. I can't say anything about that, says attorney Janine Bruckner, who represents the family. Then sure, I bet you they got paid off. I bet you they got paid off by like some intelligence agency in America to shut their mouths, and they would just give them special treatment at that Walter Reed Hospital or something, which they probably couldn't help them. They're just studying what other countries are attacking people. Then shortly after Thanksgiving 2019, according to 3 sources familiar with the incident, a White House staffer was hit while walking her dog in Arlington, Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C. According to a government source familiar with the incident, the staffer passed a parked van. A man got out and walked past her. Her dog started seizing up. Then she felt it too, a high-pitched ringing in her ears, an intense headache, and a tingling on the side of her face. Yeah. According to the source, this had happened to the staffer before. In August 2019, she had accompanied John Bolton, who was then the national security advisor, on a trip to London. The staffer, whom GQ is not identifying out of concerns for her privacy, did not respond to requests for comment. According to the government source, she was in her hotel room when she suddenly felt a tingling on the side of her head that was facing the window. The intense pressure in her head was accompanied by a tinning in her ears. When she left the room, the symptoms stopped. She reported the incident into the Secret Service because it was uncannily similar to the symptoms described by the American diplomats who had served in Cuba and China. While the CIA is not typically involved in investigations of domestic incidents, 2 sources familiar with the attack on the White House staffer told me that the agency began looking into the matter and last December, National Security Council's unit on biodefense. But by the end of the month, the unit had become completely consumed with a brand new threat coming from overseas. TV. The White House did not respond to GQ's request for comment. You see how they have these things, and I'm not saying that CV came out like the pandemic started just because of targeting, just to cover targeting. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying when you look at like they're doing the pandemic for this angle, this angle, this angle, this angle, this angle, this angle, well, you got a lot of stuff coming out about targeting, about agents being, remotely microwaved, about citizens pushing with the UN and everything like that. You got all this stuff boiling up, right? And now it's like everybody's just focused on CV. So within these plans, not just, oh, they did the whole pandemic just to cover up targeting, but within plans and angles, this was one of the reasons targeting coming out like, you know, so much and so many things happening that was one, you know, part of the angle of doing the pandemic and everything to cover it up. Yeah, hopefully it's just so much chaos is happening, it just comes out. Yeah. Okay, so in the meantime, a team was assembled at Langley to investigate the incidents overseas. Investigators came to believe that the injuries to the victims' brains were caused by a microwave weapon. Investigators, the Senate Investigative Committee, came to the it came to the conclusion that it was remote microwaves, and then they shut the Senate Investigative Committee down. And they had other investigators like Dr. Hoffer and everything that concluded it was microwaves. No final report. No final report. Shut your mouths. They just said, shut your mouths. Okay. Investigators came to believe that the injuries to the victims' brains were caused by a microwave weapon, which could be beamed at its target through walls and windows, and could even be effective from a couple of miles away. Given the work Polymeropoulos and his team had been doing to thwart the Russians since 2017, and the fact that much of the scientific literature on the biological effects of microwaves had been published in the Soviet Union and Russia, it seemed plausible to the investigators that the Russians could be behind this. Okay, let's read this. Oh, look at this. Compelling evidence. Compelling evidence. Oh, my head hurts so bad. Okay, the most compelling evidence, however, came from publicly available data. As has been widely reported, mobile phones track people's movements, and location data companies accumulate this information and sell it. Using this sort of data, CIA investigators were able to deduce the whereabouts of Russian agents and place them in close physical proximity to the CIA officers at the time they had been attacked when they were in Poland, Georgia, Australia. Oh, God. They just swung that, didn't they? Now, this stuff is remote, and probably the CIA agent, maybe they got hit by Australian intelligence, and then when they were in Taiwan, Australian intelligence hit them there too. But they're trying to say that they're trying to blame this all on Russia and say that these Russian agents like follow them around when the infrastructure doesn't need that. You can just be hit like a cell phone receives a signal. Like, so they're trying to say the Russian agents follow them around to all these different countries. What a crock. In each case, individuals believed to be FSB agents were within range of the CIA officers who had been hit in 2019. In two of the incidents, location data apparently showed FSB agents in the same hotel at the same time their targets experienced the onset of symptoms. When I asked Polymeropoulos about the CIA investigation, he said that it was conducted after he retired, and that because he did not have direct knowledge of it, he could not comment on it. He did say, however, that it would not be difficult to use the same techniques analyzing publicly available data that had been used by organizations like Bellingcat, which have employed similar methods to expose Russian operations in Europe. Anyone can buy the cell phone data on the open market, and you can see where people went, Polymeropoulos explained. And perhaps the reason why it seems to have worked is because, just like you saw with all of the GRU activities, they're sloppy. GRU machinations were discovered because officers had made several embarrassing missteps, like leaving behind taxi receipts that showed their starting address at GRU headquarters. In the case of the microwave attacks, it seemed FSB operatives had brought their phones with them while carrying out their missions. Typically a no-no in the world of covert operations. There's ways intelligence officers cover their tracks, Polymeropoulos marveled. If I'm going off to do something like that, I'm not taking my phone. It's insane. It's so sloppy. As for comment about the CIA investigation linking Russian security services to the attacks on CIA officers, Maria Zakharova, a spokeswoman for the Russian foreign minister, said, "I will not try to confirm whether they are victims of an acoustic attack, paranoia, or..." Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a question for the doctors, because the doctors don't know what they're looking for when you're getting hit with remote microwaves. Miss Maria Zakharova, that is your real name. According to people familiar with the investigation, the geolocation provide a slam dunk, but made a good circumstantial case that could link the Russian government to the apparent attacks on CIA officers. It was a starting point, a lead that some people aware of this investigation hoped agency leaders would pick up on and continue to probe. They would soon be deeply disappointed. But that's not true. This is an infrastructure where radar can hit you, like somebody can use radar on one continent and hit you on another continent. So they're trying to say it's Russians that are like leaving their cell phone somewhere. It's all a bunch of boo. Line in the Lamb says, this program started by the CIA to make people kill themselves, then passed down to the FBI. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was passed to the FBI. I think the FBI does a lot of InfraGard, the gang stalking stuff. They may have access to these weapons, but this is being done by like intelligence agencies, DOD, and then all these this like structure and substructure of contractors. So because if they just put it all in the FBI, then we could actually be like, oh, it's the FBI, right? So they partition it out in all these compartmentalized groups. So then it's way harder. And then you get an article like this that's like, oh, well, it's a Russian security industry, but there's so many contractors and security industries under intelligence agencies and DOD doing this that it's just a mess. It's just people are going to have to know that this is happening, and then it's going to have to be shut down everywhere because everyone's doing it. There's no like, oh, this is Russian security services and they've got the microwaves. Every country's military industrial complexes have this. And the FBI is involved, definitely. Definitely the FBI is involved. I'm just not so sure how much the FBI is involved in each of our like experimentations, though. They do the InfraGard stuff. They may do surveillance and things like that. They may hit certain targeted individuals. I'm not sure. New Type says Russia is the only boogeyman in the CIA are supposed. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Victor James says the FBI is definitely doing this. Yeah, they may be involved, Victor. Like they're involved in InfraGard and stuff, but like I know that my attackers are like contractors, probably under the NSA. So there's like all these contractors. So, you know, the FBI directly doing it to some targeted individuals with weapons, maybe. Maybe that's not what my research is telling me. You know, this is all being done to us by. Yeah, I'm sure the FBI is involved. I'm sure like all the agencies are involved. Let's see how much longer we have here. Okay, guys, I think what I'll do, we'll finish this one part right here. Okay, the attacks on CIA officers infuriated people in the agency. There's a gentleman's agreement not to do these things, Polymeropoulos explained. There's never any physical stuff. When I asked him if the CIA had ever physically hurt Russians when he was running EEMC, Polymeropoulos was adamant, saying, we never harm other officials like that. It's counterproductive. That's such BS. Like there's so much torture, and then they're torturing innocent citizens. And this guy's like, it's an unspoken rule that a CIA agent, you know, if you're an agent, you don't hurt another agent. What? Agents in like our organizations kill and experiment on innocent civilians. But the Russian government was clearly feeling more emboldened. They know that our president is at war with our intelligence community, so kick them when they're down. Get back at them for everything they've done before, the former national security official told me. It's a kick in the balls, isn't it? Whatever punishment Washington had meted out for, say, meddling in the 2016 election was clearly not deterring the Russians. The Russians have factored all of this in, the former national security official said. They don't care about sanctions. As a result, the Russians seem to be going further than ever. America is going further. This is such a propaganda. They're just trying to put it all off on Russia. In 2019, according to two sources, Russian operatives even slipped date rape drugs into the drinks of an undercover CIA officer at a diplomatic reception. On December 23, 2019, the CIA team investigating the attacks brought its findings to CIA Director Gina Haspel. According to two sources, after listening to the investigators lay out their evidence that suggested the Russian security services were behind the hits on agency personnel, Haspel challenged them. They say she accused the investigators of both hiding information from her and lying to her about what their inquiry uncovered. The sources say that the director questioned the motives of those looking into the mysterious attacks. This is why we need to clean out Russia House, she said. This is why we need to clean out Russia House, she said, referring to the CIA's operations unit focused on Russia, according to two sources. You're just trying to stir up trouble on Russia, a third source confirmed that the meeting did not go well. One possible explanation for such a reaction from Haspel is that she did not find the intelligence convincing. In a statement to GQ, Brittany Bramall, the director of public affairs of the agency, said, if there was credible intelligence that showed an adversary purposely, you can bet Director Haspel would act swiftly and decisively. But the other explanation for dismissing the conclusions of the investigative team is more troubling. According to the reporting in Politico, Haspel has seemed to be reluctant with what information on Russia she brings to the White House. Given President Trump's obstinate willingness to condemn Vladimir Putin or Russians' attacks in any way, no one's going to brief anything on Russia to the president, Polymeropoulos told me. They're terrified. I know that from the briefers because he'll explode and the thing will get derailed because he has this weird affinity for Putin. Asked why Putin remains such an untouchable subject for the American president, the former national security official said he doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of Putin. That's part of the dilemma. He wants Putin to like him. Just look at how he behaves with the Queen. That's how he behaves with everyone who has had any glamour and cachet. Moreover, the former official added, Putin has everything he doesn't have. There are some at Langley who regard Haspel's motives as noble, if short-sighted. In their view, she may be engaged in an effort to protect the agency. It's because the agency and many other agencies are doing this to American citizens. They don't want to put a lot of publicity onto it. Even at the cost of not protecting individual CIA employees. According to two sources, Haspel was worried that if she upset Trump too often by boxing him in with more news of alleged Russian malfeasance, and he'd be asked to condemn publicly, he would gut the CIA, which he already distrusts, just like he did with the State Department. And though Polymeropoulos told me that one former CIA official quipped that a good day for Gina is when we don't talk about Russia, Haspel apparently sees herself as someone who can steer the CIA ship through the stormy waters of the Trump era, at least until a new administration can calm the waters. She is, after all, very much a creature of the agency. She started her career as a clandestine operative in an even-headed Russian house, and even headed Russia House for a time. Sources familiar with her thinking say she warns that if the CIA pushes Trump too hard on Russia, he will replace her with someone like Senator Tom Cotton, a Trump loyalist and an outsider. Whatever her logic, according to two sources familiar with their situation, Haspel has yet to take the evidence of Russians' involvement in the attacks to President Trump. I know why. I mean, they're just trying to cover it all up. Just trying to cover it all up. Tell you. Yeah, Nadia says propaganda, most definitely. And hey, Nadia. Hey, rights violated in Maryland 2020. Yeah. rights violated. It says, seems like everyone has the sniffles lately. I think mine's because of my mask. Yeah. Tansy, you going? Much love, Tansy. Rights violated in Maryland 2020 says, I'm getting hit worse than ever, being knocked out, and they can make you see things also with holographic interferometry if you're stressed out. Blessings. Yeah. If you're really tired and really stressed out, they can put a lot more stuff in my. Hey, Charlotte. New Type says, Russia is the only boogeyman. Oh, I read that earlier. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight, but like I'm going to read some more about this either tomorrow or the next day, probably more live streams, start pushing out more information, and just make it an everyday thing, because there's so much information coming out. We just got to keep pushing it out, you know. Yeah, propaganda. That was propaganda completely. That article was propaganda, trying to push all, you know, any kind of oh man, any kind of I'm definitely gonna have to get off, but any kind of shoot, just blaming Russia. Wow. Yeah, my brain's not doing too well. Thank you for coming, Lion and the Lamb. Thanks for coming, everybody. New Type says, thank you so much, Kyle. Thank you for coming, New Type. Hey, Ryan. Is that Ryan? Do I know you from somewhere else? All right, guys. I love y'all. I'm gonna try and get some more energy up. Put some more information out. And do some new stuff. If you do, like, I'm going to be doing some more stuff. If you do want to support the channel, just paypal.me/Vulcan Wolverine. All right. I love you guys. Let's say a prayer. Let's say a prayer before we go. In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, in the name of Jesus Christ. Dear God, just help every targeted individual out there. Give them strength. Put defenses in their path right now. Just right now. Just if they pray for defenses, just put defenses in their path. Things that can just give them a lot of percentage of relief. Please help the public to see all of these things coming out about so many people getting hit with integrated directed energy weapon systems. Please help this program to end, all these technologies to be revealed. Just help us to survive better. Help us to have joy in our lives and be able to make something of our lives out of this, to be able to fight this. That we're human beings and our lives are precious. So just please give us as much joy and life as we can get, and just in these programs so we could have a full life, get healed. Just heal us every day. Just heal us, God. Just hold us with your healing hands. Love you so much. Thank you so much for what you have given us. Please just remind us to be grateful every day for our precious lives and all the precious things in our lives. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, in the name of Jesus Christ, guys. All right, I love you guys, and I will see you guys on the next one. I'm going to like this, and be following up on some other stuff, some medical stuff too. Medical stuff that Ian and try and get an implant out. I won't go into all that now, but I'm just going to be trying to get more information out. Everybody who's getting the information out, God bless you. Just keep going. I know we got miracles. I know everything's really bad in the world, but sometimes when everything gets kicked up, it's come out. All right, guys. I love y'all. God bless.